You might be asking yourself this question and wondering what on earth is actually happening at that point in the day. But don't worry, because I'm going to run you through all the details so you know what's happening, so you can make sure that it's actually all set up and gonna happen. Hello lovely couples and welcome back to my channel. I'm Lauren, wedding planner and owner of Bluebird Creative. I provide a weekly dose of wedding planning goodness for the modern couple. So if you haven't already, guys, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and if you're not already, then make sure you come and join me over on Instagram at Bluebird_creative, where I do a lot more behind the scenes. I'm on stories quite a bit. You get a few more tips and tricks and a little bit more about what it's like to be a wedding planner, and you get to see some of our actual weddings as well, because we have been really good this year so far, and I have managed to create a reel from every wedding that we've done, so go over there and check those out. Anyway, this week we are hopping into a very frequently asked topic about what happens the morning of the wedding. And I don't mean when you're having your hair and makeup done. What is actually happening in the setup? Let's just dive straight into this one. So guys, there is a lot to be done the morning of the wedding, and obviously it will differ depending on what you've decided to incorporate in your day, and therefore the complexity and just all the details that you've decided to add. But I'm going to run you through, for example, a setup from a wedding that we did last week, so that you get an idea of what's actually happening, and then you can have a better idea of, do you need extra help? Who's going to be doing it, and just making sure that you've actually just allowed for all these things to actually happen. So guys, let me start off with, you're obviously going to be having your hair and makeup done. I say obviously, maybe you're not, but the likelihood is you're going to be having your hair and makeup done, whether that's you're doing it yourself, your friend's doing it, or you're having a professional hair and makeup come in. You might be with your bridesmaids and you might be having that done on site, or you might be doing that at home or in a different location. And I have done a video on this, which I think is our most viewed video ever. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Linking it up here, always forget which side it is, so go check that out. But this video focuses on what's happening whilst you are having that done and whilst you are doing that. So let's talk through this wedding that we did the other week. So when we arrived on site, I have my list of things that we need to set up and that we need to make sure are happening, and that everybody's happy and that everyone's arrived on time and that everything is just going and flowing. So the things that will be happening is ensuring that if you've hired any lighting in, that is being set up. So for example, this one particular wedding, they had a beautiful canopy of pea lights, also known as fairy lights, that were draping in the main room and draping down the window. And when we arrived, the lighting company were already on site and they were almost done. They're usually one of the first to come in, and they were hanging that. Another wedding we did recently, they literally just had 3 trees outside lit with fairy lights, and the company came in a little bit later and they quickly just wrapped that and off they went. So if that's something that's happening, what time are they coming? Are they coming the day before? Are they coming the morning of? Have they got enough time to set up? And are they going to be in the way of other suppliers? Usually that is the case, and usually the lighting companies know that they need to get in a lot earlier. So for example, if it's in the wedding breakfast room, the florist might need the space, but they might not be able to do it if the lighting's going. So just bear that in mind. We build that into our timelines for our clients. So lighting is one thing. The next thing will be the ceremony space will obviously be being set up. Now that's likely happening with the florist, and you'll have whatever flowers you've decided, whether you're having flowers in urns, whether you're having flower arches, whether you're having pew ends, whatever it is that you've decided to do. And I am kind of talking more on a one venue location here, guys. So more of a civil ceremony or celebrant led, not a church wedding. I'm just talking about one venue just for ease for this particular video. Maybe we can do that, a church one, in another video. So they'll be setting up the flowers. If you've decided to have confetti, that'll get put down on the chairs. If that's what you've decided to do. There's lots of if you've decided to do's, because everybody does whatever they fancy, because we are a you do you community over here. But I'm giving you an idea. So confetti down. You may have decided that you want to reserve, for example, the first 2 rows. So you might have made some signage for that. It might be just per row. It might be individually on each seat. Who's putting that down? That needs to go down on the seats. Have you got tissues for people? How are you handing that out? Have you got any signage for people? Where is that going? So that needs to be set up on the morning as well. Then there will be the wedding breakfast room, and that'll be a case of making sure that the tables are out and that the chairs are in position. Then you'll have the linens going down if you're having table linen, and the crockery, glassware, cutlery will be going down, but that wouldn't go down until the florists have actually done their work. So they'll usually put their table centers down, and any arrangements that they're doing, if they're doing any hanging installations or anything, that will all be done first, along with candles in the centers. Then the crockery, glassware and everything else will be put down, and then the stationery is placed usually at the end. So you'll have a table name per table, and then you'll have place names per place setting, and then you might have menus, and it might be one per table or one per person or whatever you've decided. And then obviously if you're having favors as well, you'll have those per person as well. So those all need to be laid and set up, and that's usually done by a combination of suppliers. So obviously the florist will do the flowers, and they'll likely do the candles for you as well. The caterer will set the table for you, and they might get involved with the stationery and help out with those little elements for you too, which is really helpful. Otherwise, if you've got a coordinator, they'll obviously come in and lay the stationery and just make sure all the details that you've decided for your place settings are exactly how you want them laid. Often our clients will decide that they want something different for their napkins, so we'll be in usually a little bit earlier than the caterers, and if it's knotting of napkins, then we'll come in and we'll knot all the napkins for the caterers just so it's done, just to save time. And then when they're laying, it's a lot quicker. And then depending on the venue and the team that we're working with and how much time we've got, we'll likely put down the place names onto each table, and the table names and the menus, show the caterer how we want each one laid out, and then their team will lay it up for us whilst we're then getting ready for another part of the day. Just depends on each venue, so we kind of work together there. Other things that need to be set up are the cake, and are you having any styling around the cake? Are you having any cake flowers that are fresh that are being placed that morning? Are you having any bud vases or other flower arrangements around the cake table? Any chiffons hanging, any candles, etc. What signage are you having? Are you having a welcome sign? Is that going to be up on an easel or on a nice display at the front of the building for when guests arrive? Are you having any signage for your ceremony? Because that will need to be set up. You may decide that if you've got a table plan, which I highly advise you to do, and if you haven't watched my signage video, go hop on over there now. That is maybe on the list. But if you're having a table plan, because you are having a table plan, you might not want to put it out at the beginning of the day. You might want to put it out a little bit later so that guests aren't looking at it. Something else to consider, guys, just to throw a spanner in the works here, is that you might have a venue where you can't lay the breakfast tables up or the dinner tables up before the ceremony, because perhaps you're using one space and it has to be turned around. So the venue will be set up for just the ceremony, but you'll want to make sure that everything is prepped and ready for that turnaround during the day, and then it's going to be all hands on deck and a really quick change and turnaround. So again, making sure that napkins are knotted and that everything is in the right position so that when it can all come out, it's going to be laid really nicely. Your florists may stay on site for that, they may not. So it's definitely worth having a conversation with them to see if they can, or is there going to be somebody else on the team that needs to take responsibility for repurposing some flowers, for example. So there we go, guys. There's quite a lot going on in the morning, and you need to make sure that somebody is also looking out for all the details. For example, at last week's wedding, when we arrived, we needed to put all the stationery into beautiful double-sided gold frames. And this is for the bar sign, for the cake sign, for the guest book table sign, which is another thing that needs to be set up in the morning, the guest book table, and for the table names. And as we went to put them in the frames, they didn't fit. They were too big. So me and my assistant had to stand there and hand cut. So I've now decided I need to add a mini guillotine to the kit bag. The kit bag is growing literally every wedding. If you didn't see on stories recently, I added a travel kettle, which is epic. I will make sure I add all of these actually to my Amazon store as well. All these little extra kit bits, because they are amazing. But the travel kettle was epic. But we had to cut every piece of signage to make it fit, and I wanted to make sure it was perfect. On one of our other weddings, our client had made a point of saying at their venue visit, can we just make sure that the tablecloths are all ironed and look nice, which doesn't sound like she's asking for much, right? You would assume that that was included and would happen. But when my team went into the wedding breakfast room, the top table in particular, was just super creased and looked terrible. So there she was, grabbing an iron and having to iron the tablecloths just to make sure it was just right for her. They also had to end up putting up an outside umbrella with a really heavy, like, metal base, just so the band that were playing for the drinks reception had shade. There's all these things that happen during the setup in the morning, and you just want to make sure that you know the things that you want and that you have spoken to the teams to ensure it's going to happen, so that you're not stressing on the day. And that might be the venue team are going to help you out. That might be the caterers are going to help you out in certain areas, possibly the florists. And if you're really worried, then obviously a wedding coordinator. And one of the biggest questions that we always get when we're on an inquiry call is, can you help with the styling setup? Yes, absolutely. That is 100% part of what we do, what we love doing, and it's in the job remit. Like, literally, we're not there just to make sure everything happens at the right time. We're there carrying flower urns from the ceremony through to the wedding breakfast room. We are cutting the stationery to make it fit into the frames. We are tying the napkins in knots. So if you are worried about all those things that have to happen, or you've got lots of styled elements and lots of moving parts, then I would obviously recommend getting a coordinator. But this video is not about that. It's about you understanding what is happening the morning of your wedding and making sure that you've kind of just considered all the parts, so that you're not just leaving things and hoping that it gets done. So there you go, guys. I hope this video is helpful, and I hope it hasn't stressed you out realising all the things that happen in the morning, and hopefully it's empowered you more so that you've got the knowledge so you can make the right decisions to move forward. Have a fantastic week, guys, and I will be back next week with some more wedding planning goodness.